Hi, and welcome to this week's Mortgage Broker broadcast. This week's podcast is nearly the end of 2023. We've only got two more episodes left with this week's and next week's. And I just wanted to follow up this week's podcast on the podcast that we had a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, last week we had Adele on the podcast, which was a great guest, a great feedback on Adele's podcast so far. And the week before that, I talked about the importance of reviewing and reflecting on your year and taking time to do that. So if you have done that already, then that's great. If you haven't done that already, taking the time to reflect on 2023, then please make sure you do so. And what I want to do is follow up on that podcast with looking at numbers and getting quite specific in terms of what numbers you should be looking at when you are reviewing your year and when you're looking at your goals for 2024. What numbers are important and what numbers I would be including in my business plan and the goals I was setting myself for next year. So yeah, that's this week's podcast. First of all, as always, we've got Leigh Rowland and the Mortgage Broker Bulletin.
Thank you, Craig. Welcome to episode 10 of the Mortgage Broker Bulletin. Currently a yellow wind warning. This week's topic, social media. Some people like it, some people use it, some people don't like it, some people don't use it. Last year, I decided to double up on my social media over the Christmas period, and it did reap rewards. There's a couple of theories. Are people going to be on their phones more because they're off and they're in the house? Or will they be with their families and not on their phones? Give it a go and try and find out. If you're not keen on social media, but you do have profiles, you don't want to put anything out there, just start liking and sharing other people's posts. Be positive, be kind, and that's another way you can get your name out there. Get those inquiries in, ready for 2024. Have a great day. Onwards, upwards and forwards, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks for that, Leigh, and thanks for your input again on the Mortgage Broker broadcast. As you sort of said, I think social media is something that we hear so much about as a mortgage broker, as business owners. Quite a lot of people's take on social media, and people are all over it. Some people are scared of it, and I think it's just a good tip that you sort of said in there, which was about if that you are shy, then just looking at making sure you're working on your connections, working on your followers and following other people, but doing your bit in terms of liking and commenting on other people's posts, which will obviously help as well. So good Mortgage Broker Bulletin this week, Leigh. So thank you so much for that. And so, yeah, this week's podcast, as I said before, it's the 13th of December today. So you should have an idea by now in terms of how your year is going to end, how your year is going to finish in terms of numbers. And that's what I wanted to talk about in the podcast, because talking about, I said a few weeks ago, about reflecting and reviewing your numbers, on reviewing and reflecting in general. But this week, I wanted to drill down a little bit in terms of specific numbers, because there's a lot of things that goes on with numbers. There's a lot of people telling people what their numbers should look like. They should tell them what numbers they should be worried about. But generally speaking, it always benefits the person, as I've always said, of the person that's giving those targets to those individuals. So I think I just need to be clear in terms of that. We are going to talk about numbers and what numbers you should be reviewing of 2023. If you haven't had a business plan for 2023, that's fine, but you can still know your numbers, and it's important to review those numbers. So we're going to talk about that on the podcast, and then also what number goals you should be setting yourself for 2024. So first thing to remember is that these are your numbers, not anybody else's. These are your numbers. Now, you can do whatever you want to do with your business plan, do what you want to do with your goals. You can share them. If you want to share them with me, absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. Happy to discuss those numbers and goals with you. No issues whatsoever. But what I would sort of say is, the first thing is, remember that these are your numbers. Never lose that fact. They're not somebody else's goals. They're not what somebody else should be telling you should be doing or what you should be achieving in 2024. And these are based on your goals, and your numbers should be based on your lifestyle goals, as well as your work-life balance. And as I always say, and this is why I say that your goals, your race, you should always be running your own race. And I'll always say that fact. So yeah, when we're talking about numbers, making sure that you're focusing on your numbers in terms of it. thing is with numbers is that, and goals, they should always be realistic and challenging. So they want to be ones that will take you out of your comfort zone and be challenging and realistic. You don't want to sort of have stupid goals that are unachievable and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to go for this year, which is double what you did last year, 3 times what you did last year, whatever the case may be. Be realistic with your goals, but be challenging with those goals as well. They need to take you out of your comfort zone. They need to feel challenging inside when you're setting their goals. They don't want to be easy. You don't want to be looking at those goals thinking, oh yeah, that's like there's not much growth on last year. I'll look to do what I did last year, which is okay. If you're happy with the numbers what you did last year and that's your goal, then that is fine. But this should be challenging, and you've stepped out your comfort zone this year. Then again, it's about challenging those numbers and stepping out your comfort zone for 2024, as they always will be. So what we'll do is look at numbers. I've done a podcast a while ago, earlier on this year, when we looked at numbers and really drilled down in terms of a lot of detail with each particular area. But what I wanted to do with this podcast was look at the numbers that you should be quickly reviewing and prioritizing them in some sort of order that I would look to do this. So if I would look reviewing my 2023, which I've done, and then looking at my goals for 2024, which I've done, I would prioritize them in this particular order, because then it is trying to keep it simple. I would rather have, if I put them in order, then you know that first one idea is you've got to do it, second, third, and fourth. But then there is loads of numbers that you can be reviewing. If you look at all the numbers and goals that you can have as a mortgage broker, there are so many. But what I wanted to do is on the podcast, as we end the year, is just look at, if you don't get time, if you are struggling with structure, time to look at and review and reflect and look at your plans for 2024, these are the things that you should be looking at as a minimum. So the first thing, the place to start with anything is your income. You're doing this, most mortgage brokers, most business owners are doing this for income. Generally, we've all got mortgages to pay or some commitments that we have. And so we're all doing this from an income point of view. And that's one thing, one goal and one number that you should have. So and the reason why I start with income, because I always start with the end in mind. We can look at other things as well, but ultimately we're all here for the income. And yeah, if you start with the end in mind and then work backwards, which we'll cover, it will help you to sort of put those in logical order as well. So yeah, so this is the place to start. Look at your income. What goal did you set yourself for 2023 in terms of your earnings, your take home money? What hit your bank account, business bank account? What were your goals for 2023? And when you reflect on those goals and what you've achieved against those goals, how does that make you feel? And just taking the time to have that feeling inside, you think, actually, how does this make you feel? And only you're reflecting, you're reviewing your numbers. You only know, there's only you know how you're feeling about what you've achieved in 2023 from an income point of view compared to what goal you set yourself. So just have a think about that first of all, is like, how does that actually make you feel? And once you've sort of know what you've taken the time, you've got your figures, you know exactly what you earned in 2023, then what you need to do then is, once you know what you've actually earned, you can then look at what your earnings goal is going to be for 2024. So you've got to look at that as well in terms of, so I know what I earned in 2023. What is your goal now for 2024? One thing that a few people have sort of said to me in the past about goals in terms of earnings is that they have two things. They have two goals in the mind. One is a need to earn goal, and then one is a more challenging one. And what I'd say is, if you're a broker setting out and this is your first full year, or you're 6 months in, or you're looking to start, then that's okay to have your need goal and your challenging goal. But what I would say is, if you're an established broker, just have the one challenging goal. Keep things simple. Don't make things complicated. You need to have that one challenging income goal, nothing else, no distractions. Because if then you have your gold and then you've got your bronze, you'll hit silver. Whereas if you just got your gold, your challenging income for 2024, that's your goal, that's all you're focused on, that is more likely to happen than having that backup of, oh yeah, but I said I was gonna, it was okay because I needed to earn this and I've done that anyway. No, get yourself that challenging target in there, get yourself that challenging goal, and focus on that one goal and that one goal only. So start with the income. That's the most important thing. So don't overcomplicate things. Get that figure in your mind. Know what you want to earn in 2024. Get that written up wherever it wants to be, wherever it is. Make sure it's on display or has some place where you will see that figure every single day, every single week, every single month. So it's clear in your mind what you want to earn in 2024, and don't overcomplicate things. So that's the first thing, is looking at your income. The second thing that I would do then is really have a pipeline goal. And nobody ever talks about having a pipeline goal because it's sort of, they don't understand the benefits of having a pipeline goal and what that means. So why would you have a pipeline goal, or why would I have? So I'm starting with my income and then going with a pipeline goal. Well, your pipeline will tell you everything that you need to know about your business and your earnings for the next 3 months. It will tell you a lot about your business anyway. But if you're monitoring and tracking your pipeline and really understanding your pipeline and what's happening with your pipeline, but if you have a pipeline goal, then that will help you understand what the next 3 months is going to look like. So, for example, and I'm just talking about a rough figure here, I'm not saying this is what your goal should be. I'm just trying to put it into mind and understanding what your pipeline should be, what your pipeline goal should be, relevant to what you want to earn in 2024. So if you start the month with a 30 grand pipeline, you know that that should give you 10 grand of business that month. So if you start with 30 grand, it should give you 10 grand of business coming out during that month. So you're generally looking at a third of your income, a third of your pipeline should come out as income. So 30 grand pipeline should give you 10 grand of business that month, 10 grand of issue business bank, whatever you want to call it. So if your goal for the year is doing 120 grand's worth of business, so your goal is 120 grand for 2024, then your pipeline goal should be 30 grand. So you've got 30 grand pipeline, 10 grand should come out each month. Maintaining that 30,000 will give you 10 grand each month, going to give you 120 grand a year. So it is that simple. So as you end the year right now, knowing what your pipeline figure is, knowing what your pipeline figure is, it will give you a great idea in how you're going to start 2024. So if you don't know your pipeline today as you end 2023, you need to know. There's a few things with pipeline as well that people can make themselves feel a bit, which I've talked about before, but quickly. Just don't take comfort in your pipeline in terms of it's full with a load of crap. Make sure it's clean. Make sure you're getting stuff out if it's not proceeding. Make sure your pipeline is clean, because if it's clean, it'll give you a great angle on your business, give you a good understanding of business. So get your pipeline goal for 2024 based on what you want to earn in 2024, based on what business you want to come out. So, yeah, focus on income, have yourself a pipeline goal as well. And then two more that I would look at. One is how much business you want to write. So knowing what you want to earn, you will then know how much you need to write based on commission splits, cases that fall off, MPW, and that sort of thing. You will know what, if you want to earn X, you need to write Y. So get yourself a written business target for 2024. That is important, and it has to be relevant to what you want to earn as well. So no point saying I want to earn 50 grand, but I want to write 300 grand. It's not, unless your commission splits are really poor or not good, then yeah, absolutely. But get yourself that written business target as well to start the year. So what have you written this year? Reviewing that, reflecting on that, how you feel about that. Has that delivered the earnings you want to, and your income that you wanted to earn this year? And then look at steady growth into 2024. Because I'll talk about it on the podcast, but I'm a firm believer that 2024 will be a positive and a very good year for the mortgage brokers that are doing what they said they should be doing, day in, day out, week in, week out, structure, process, and all the rest of it. I think it will be a great year. But I'll talk about more about that on future podcasts. But so yeah, you need to get yourself a written business target as well. I think that is vital. So written business, just to explain, prop fees, broker fees, protection business, whatever you do in terms of what you advise on a daily business, put all that into the pot, and that's business. And whatever you receive, then that's your written business. So have that figure. So what you do then is, So you understand what your written business target is, and you know what that is for 2024. And then what you can then do then is, what I would do is break it down to monthly and break it down to weekly as well. So you're not focused on picking random numbers out. So I say, oh, I want to earn 50 grand. I need to write 60 grand or whatever the things is. So then I write, okay, I need to write 60 grand. That's 5 grand a month. Right. Okay. If you then drill it down that way, you're not focused on the 60 grand, you'll just focus on the 5 grand a month and just focus on those numbers. And like I said, they are just numbers I'm picking out there. It's got to be relevant to you in terms of the numbers. These are not things I'm suggesting. What you've got to do is then once you've got that, your written business target for 2024, break it down by month, which is easy. Break it down by weekly as well. I would break it down each week so you know how much you need to write week in, week out. I wouldn't divide by 52. I would divide it by 48 on a week by week, and also divide it by 11 if you're doing monthly. You've got time off, you've got things that will happen. So breaking it down, if you're going to do it weekly, which I suggest you should, then divide it by 48 and you'll give you an idea in terms of how much business you need to write week in, week out. So we've got how much you want to earn, pipeline target, written business target, and then the last one is your average case size goal. Now, why? Again, it's something that people might not focus on too much, but I'm a firm believer, again, of it gives you a good idea of your business. Why would you focus on your case size goal? Well, your case size will give you a good angle in terms of how much each you're earning from each particular case that you're doing. And it helps with your growth, understanding what your case size is for 2023. Set yourselves goal for 2024 on growth, on development. It will tell you so much about you. It will tell you so much about your business. What was it in 2023? What's your goal for 2024? And then it's sort of that, then you know what your written business is for the year. You know what your average case size is. You then know how many mortgages you need to do. And again, drill that down by week. So if you know that you need to, I'm going to use simplistic. So you know your target is, I want to write 2 grand a week, and your average case size is £1,000. You know, you need to do 2 mortgages a week. It's as simple as that. So you're not then worried about your 60 grand or your earnings. You know that if week in, week out, you do 2 mortgages, you're going to write 2 grand, you're going to earn X, whatever it is long term on your calculation. So just really break it down and strip it down. And that's why it's important to send, because you do need to know your numbers. So then by earning, pipeline, how much you want to write, average case size, and then breaking it down, you've got that weekly goal that you need to achieve week in, week out. And I would definitely have a weekly goal, because you know that that's your target. As you sit down on Monday morning, you need to know how you're going to write 2 grand this week, 3 grand this week, where you're going to get your 2 mortgages from, where you're going to get your 3 mortgages from, whatever that looks like to you. You know that gives you the start from that week's point of view. As you get into your desk Monday morning, Sunday night, you know exactly what you need to do that week in order to achieve your earnings, what you want to achieve for the year. So hopefully that makes sense. And I understand there is absolutely so many more numbers that you can look at as a mortgage broker: protection conversion, average broker fees. There are loads of numbers that we could have talked about, and I've talked about on past podcasts and broke those down, leads and all the rest of it. But what I wanted to do was just try and keep these simple, that if you do want to just have 4 things and 4 metrics in your business for 2024, get those 4 numbers right and get those 4 numbers in your head. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that as you sat here now, as we end the year and reviewing and reflecting on 2023, looking at those 4 numbers. So just to recap, you know what you needed to earn in 2023. Make sure you've got your goal for 2024. What does your pipeline goal look like? What is the value of your pipeline in terms of business? What does that goal look like? You also need to know what you need to write in 2024, and you also need to know what your average case size is. So yeah, that's just basically recapping and keeping it, breaking it down. I say, and again, to recap, which I've missed off there, is that breaking it down, knowing how many mortgages you've got week in, week out, how much business you need to write week in, week out to achieve your goal, your income goal for 2024. So try and keep it that simple. Try not to get distracted by anything else. If you want to track other stuff, absolutely fine. It's fine. Like if you're good on numbers, you're good on tracking, you've got systems in place, CRMs, processes, and the rest of it, then it's fine to look at all the other different things, that numbers that you can track. But I want to try and keep this podcast simple at the end of the year. So you're making sure that it happens with those 4 key numbers. So yeah. And again, just go back. This is your business. This is you're a mortgage broker, you're self-employed mortgage broker. This is your life. This is your lifestyle. This is your demographic. This is your area. So don't get too distracted with other people in terms of what they're setting themselves as goal. Every broker is different. Every business owner is different. Every business is different. It's about you and your numbers for 2024. So do not forget that, and don't ever get distracted with anything else going on. Get your numbers cemented, get them in place, get them visual so you see them day in, day out, week in, week out. And let's just get smashed in 2024, smashing those numbers. Don't get smashed, well, you can do, but at the end of the year. But then say 2024, smashing the numbers that you want to achieve, earning the income that you want to achieve. And yeah, as I said before, I think a mortgage broker will be very, very good in 2024. The brokers that have got it right. So, yep. Next week, we're talking about actions on the podcast. Last one for the year. We've got Leigh back on Mortgage Broker Bulletin again. It will be the last one for 2023 as we then get into 2024. So one more podcast left. Talk about actions and business planning. As always, any thoughts, comments, feedback on this week's podcast, last week's, previous, wherever you listen to, wherever you subscribe, wherever you watch the podcast, please put in the comments. They all come in to me. More than happy to take any podcast suggestions of guests or topics you want to talk about. Absolutely fine. And as always, don't forget to run your own race.